right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome once again to our second day of the free online bootcamp here at Loctech. I'm so excited to be with you guys once more. I remain your friendly UI UX instructor, Olent Gold Asinobi, here at Loctech Training Institute. Yes, yesterday was really fun. We've covered a lot. But for those of you that have missed it, sadly, for some reasons or the other, you can always check out our YouTube channel and Facebook page. Always remember to subscribe as well so that you can keep on getting helpful content as like this. So if you missed our previous videos, like the one that happened yesterday, you can go to our YouTube page and you're going to see the video right there. And again, remember to subscribe. So let's do a brief recap of what we did yesterday. Yesterday, we talked about what UI UX design was. We got introduced to the famous UI UX design tool that we're going to be using, which is Figma by name. And we all learned how to sign up to Figma and create a Figma account. Now, in case you've missed it, I'm just going to run through that brief process once again. How do you create a Figma account? You just simply go to your browser, search for figma.com, and click. And once you get the list of websites, you click on the first option that comes out and then click on get started. It's as easy as that. Once you get started, you sign up, you follow the procedures, and you're good to go and all set. Well, yesterday was fun. It was basically intro, but today we are going to be doing something much more interesting. So I'm going to be moving over to Figma right now. And there we have it. As you can see, what we're having on the screen looks like Instagram, right? I'm sure it looks so similar, something that you guys must have seen before. Yes, because that is what we're going to be working with today. I know what we did yesterday was a bit basic. We didn't do much. So we're going to expatiate a lot more on the topics that were covered yesterday, and then we'll see how to apply these same tools and techniques into creating an Instagram post and friend suggestion card, just like what we see here. I'm sure you guys are already excited to get started because I am very well excited. I can't wait to get started, and I'm happy that I'm getting started right now. All right. So before we move on, let me quickly take these guys out of the way. So I'm zooming out now to shift these guys out. I'm sure you guys remember our Figma environment that we and our UI design bootcamp that I created yesterday. So yesterday we talked about the toolbar and all the tools that Figma has for us, right? We covered the basics and what they can do for us. So today we are going to talk about it in a bit more explanatory manner. First off, how do we add colors to shapes? I'm sure that question must have been going through your minds for those of you that were around yesterday. How do I add color? It's just looking bland, it's just looking gray. So I'm going to answer that question right now. So I'm going to first of all start by drawing a shape, a rectangle. Remember our rule. Whatever shape you're drawing, always remember to hold shift to achieve equal sides all round, just like this. And as we can see, we have a basic rectangle already played out in the background. So good. And now we don't have a color of our choice. The color that we're seeing here is just this basic gray looking, kind of whitish gray or thereabout. So now we are going to change this color. So we're going to get introduced to the right hand side of our Figma environment, which you can see. This is the design panel. If you can look at the top, we have your account. As it stands now, this is my account. You see the info for my initial. If I click down, you see Olens Asinobi, yeah, the one and only. Then we have the play button, the preview, and the share. But we're not going to come back to those guys. We're going to visit them later on. For now, we are sticking with this design panel. The prototype and every other thing you see here is going to be a topic for later. So why am I taking us here? Because this is where we go to add or edit properties of any shape or element in Figma. So if you have a shape or a text or whatever you have in Figma, you can always come here to edit it. So as it stands now, we want to modify this our shape by changing the color, right? So you can see that this properties panel, this design panel is broken down into different sections. The first section is the position. This is not what we want. The next section is the layout, which represents dimensioning. Position represents the, like the name implies, the position of the element which in respect to other elements for the alignment panel, a position in the canvas, and the rotation, the way it is placed and the way you can view it. That's the point of this position. The next part is the layout. Now under this layout, you have the dimensions, the width and the height, as you can see. Next, we have our appearance. How does it look? What are you seeing? We have our opacity and corner radius. So this corner radius is if you want to give rounded edges to your shape. You can just impute any figure of your choice and you get there. But we are skipping all this now because our friend that brought us to this design panel is the fill section where you can add colors. So fill means color. So as you can see, there is this small thumbnail underneath the fill text, and you can see that the color in the thumbnail matches the color of our rectangle. So what does that tell you? That this is where we change the color of our shape. Yes. So how do we do it? We click on this small box. Yeah, I repeat, you click on the small box to bring up a dialog box like this. So I have clicked on it and this guy has come up right now. As you can see, I have a big will I call it square or rectangular sort of shape displaying a color spectrum. You can see from white to black and from white to red as well. So this represents the value, the hue, and the saturation of this particular shape. Now, I know that all those terminologies I'm saying, it sounds a bit ambiguous to hear, but we can't go much into the definition of each of them. But what you just need to know is that this is where we adjust our color, select the color from, and then adjust the level of brightness. I think that sounds a little bit easier to understand. So let's say we want to change this color to red. As you can see, I've taken it all the way to the right and my shape has gone all red. And what if we want to change it to something else, another color? I can come down to this color spectrum down here. You can see that I can change the hue directly or the color. So the next color after red is orange. I'm just dragging the slider. The next is yellow, green, light blue, blue, purple, and red again. So that's how the color palette works in Figma. So that's for setting the colors of your choice. The next slider beneath it is the transparency. So how opaque is this your color? Do you want it to be completely visible, or do you want it to be slightly visible? Like you can see, I'm dragging down the transparency and our shape is losing its visibility. So that is this slider panel down here. So that's how you add your colors, solid colors, if I may. Then we move on. There are different options or types of colors that you can add. Besides adding solid colors like this, you can also choose to add gradients. Now, what are gradients? Gradients are multiple colors at once. So if you want to add more than one color, how do you go about it? Because we can tell that for all we know, Instagram has multiple colors around it. Its logo is basically made of a gradient. So its color scheme are gradients. So how do we go about that? You move on to the next part that you have on top here. You can see on top you have solid, the next is gradient, right? So we click on the gradient and it looks kind of a little bit different, kind of less complicated or bulky like the previous one. Yeah, because the gradient tool is very easy to understand and easy to work with. So you see that instead of having a big square or rectangle, we are having just one long slider that transitions from light red to dark red. So this is the gradient slider. So this represents the colors that we have in our shape. So currently we have two colors, the light color and the darker color. If we want to add another color, there are two ways. You can either choose to click anywhere in the slider, like you can see, I've added one, or you click on this plus icon here. In case if you missed yesterday, I said, or if I didn't say it, now I'm saying it. Yeah, whenever you see a plus icon in Figma, it indicates add. So just like plus means addition in mathematics. So when you see plus, it means that you want to add something. So for you to see a plus here, it means that you're adding a color. And the minus, of course, is the opposite of plus, which means minus or take away a color. So if you want to add a color, you just press plus and it keeps on going on and on. Quick question. How do you then change the colors? Because as we can see, no matter the amount of colors I add, it just keep on giving us another shade of red. I'm going to delete those guys. So this is how we do it. So we change your colors by clicking on these small boxes again. Now you see that these are the boxes that we met in. This is the same size of the box that we met under our field. So we clicked on it in the field to give us that color spectrum, right? So that means if you click on it now, this comes out. Voila! It comes, the color spectrum comes out again. You can then change the color to any one of your choice. As easy as that. So that's how you add gradients in Figma. Next, beside that, we have the image, adding of image. So we need to also know this because we are actually going to be working with pictures today. So you might wonder, how do they add images to shapes? You know, you can have a shape, perhaps a profile, and the person's smiley face inside the circle. How was that done? It is done as easy as possible in Figma, just like this. You can see that once I click on this image, the center of the square goes a bit, I think that's a checkered background, indicating that you need to upload a picture. So all you have to do is come to this first part that says upload from computer. So when you click on the button, it takes you to your local files in the system where you can go to select your pictures from. So I'm just going to close that down because we don't want to put a picture for now. So I'll just leave it as a solid color. Yeah, you might be wondering, why did I skip this last guy? This last guy is if you want to add a video in Figma. But like I said yesterday, this is a free account and free comes with limitations, especially the limitation of adding no video. I know that sounds kind of bad, but that's what we have to work with. So as we are working with the free version of Figma, there is no access to addition of video in Figma. So but we can make do with what we have by adding pictures, colors, and gradients. So yeah, each and every one of these options have some other specifics to add to it. But again, for the sake of time, we're just going to be taking it bit by bit, one step at a time. So that is how we add colors. We're going to come back here, obviously, because we are going to need to add pictures and we're going to work with lots of them. So, but let's just know how to add it at the get-go. Then that is how you work with fill in with your shapes in Figma. What about strokes? What do we mean by stroke? When we say stroke, we are talking about the outline of your shape, sort of like the border, that line that appears all around it. That is what we mean by stroke. And as you can see, underneath, directly under the field, you have your stroke. Yes. So clicking on the stroke gives you a stroke. I know we can't see it because the color is actually black. So I think I'm going to change the color to something brighter. Let us see it. I'm going to put it on red, and I guess you guys can see that faint red line all around it. Yes, the colors of the stroke works the same way that the field works. Yeah, you still have your gradients, you still have your pictures and your video as well. So we're going to leave it at solid for now. And then the next thing you guys need to know is how to increase your stroke to make it a bit more visible. As it stands now, the stroke is very, very faint because the weight is tiny. As you can see, the weight is set to 1. So how do we increase? You can just manually impute a figure, or hover your mouse. As you can see what's going on here, if you place your mouse beside that number, you see that our cursor changes from an arrow to a double-edged arrow pointing left and right, indicating that you can increase or decrease at will. So if you want to, if you don't have a particular figure in mind for this particular stroke, you can just increase by clicking to the right, or decrease by clicking to the left. But one thing is happening. If you can see, our stroke, as I'm increasing it, it is covering our field. Why is that? I wonder. Well, if you look next to the weight, we have position. I know I skipped it. I skipped it on purpose. Next to the weight, we have position. So the position determines where your stroke is going to be on your shape. As you can see, the position is saying inside. So that's why our stroke, instead of going out, is covering our field, which we might not want or we might want depending on the circumstance. So whenever this happens, always remember to change the position. So remember, whenever you see this tiny arrow, it means there's a drop down. So let's click on that drop down. You see that we have center, which means that the stroke is going to be placed at the center of the shape of the border. One way in, one way out. But if you want it completely outside, you just click on outside and there you have it. Our shape has gotten its complete background. As easy as that. Of course, again, I will say it, there are more things to this shape. stroke that we need to know. There are more features that we can do with stroke, things that we can edit. But for the sake of time, we're not going to have that time to cover all of that. So this is where I'm going to like put a pause here on the stroke topic. That's how far we can go under stroke so that we can cover a lot of other things. So that's how we work with shapes. What about text? Because as far as I know, I have some text in this Instagram post. So we know how to add text from our previous video yesterday. For those of us that were not around, this is how you add your text. You just go to this type tool, shortcut is T on your keyboard, and you click once to create an artistic text box. Remember, artistic text box means that you can just type on one endless line. It goes on and on and on and on and on. For you to enter the next line, you have to literally click on enter for you to enter the next line and type again. But if you don't want that, let's say you want a block of text, block of things to type and thereabout, you then create what we call a paragraph type tool, which is done by drawing, clicking and drawing instead of just clicking once. So once that is done, you see that when you type here, you can go straight, but once you get to the boundary of your text box, you see what happened? It automatically jumps into the next line, just like that. I know I'm typing a bit of gibberish, but it's all for the sake of learning. So let me just delete that. Yeah. So that's how you impute text. So one thing I want to tell us about typography. Text is the topic of typography. Understanding typefaces and font styles. They are two different things. So what's a typeface? A typeface is what we all know as font. Please, it's not just font, it's called a typeface. So this is actually the family. You can call it a font family, but not just a font. You can call it a font family. So this is actually the family, or the way the font looks like. Let's say you have different typefaces like Inter, Arial, Times New Roman. They are all typefaces. So if I click once to create an artistic type tool, let me type something reasonable. This is a text. So the particular typeface that we can see under typography is Inter. So if we change it, you see that the name, the way it looks changes. So that's why it's called the typeface. It means it's the face of the type. Yeah, if you just take it that way, you can easily remember it's the face of the type. So just changing the typeface gives you something else, a different look. So let's say I leave it at Inter because I'm going to be working with Inter for today. Then font style. What we have here, how the font style affects the size, the thickness, and the appearance of a typeface. So the typeface is Inter. How does it appear? Currently it's set to medium. You have semi-bold, bold, extra bold, and black. Under medium, you have regular, light, extra light, and thin. Now, the topic of typography goes a long way. When it comes to visual design, there are some principles that designers always follow for typography. For instance, when we talk about adding text to a particular design, you have to ensure to establish hierarchy. What is hierarchy? Place emphasis on the most important element. That's where you have headers, subheaders, and body text. So here it is categorized into three categories: so headers, subheaders, and body text. So the headers are mostly bolder and bigger than the subheaders. The subheaders at the same time is also bolder and bigger than the body text. So whenever you're creating a design, always remember to differentiate each of them, which is a header and which is a subheader and which is a body text. Headers are meant to be seen. They are the ones that you expect your viewers to see at the first glance. Subheaders describe your headers. They act like complements, while body text are meant to be read. You can use body text in places for paragraphs, brief descriptions, and other types that includes more text. So anything that you know that your users are going to read or are expected to read are known as, I will fall under the category of body text. Yeah, that's just a brief insight that I can give you guys on typography. So it's good to know because that's what is going to be determining how we'll be placing our font styles. So that's it for font style. After that, we're going to have the caps, all caps, small caps, title case and thereabout. So how do I access that? After the medium, you see the size by the left or by the right, sorry. That's where you increase how big the text is, just like this. This line height, letter spacing, this letter spacing adjusts the spacing between the letters, while this line height, it doesn't really do much, as you can see. Doesn't really do much, just affects the height of the line, which is not really necessary. Then we have the alignment. So this one comes in handy for paragraph text. How aligned, or where, what is the orientation of your text? Is it aligned to the left, to the center, or to the right? So for us to get to the part of the caps, which is where we are going to be working with today, all you have to do is move all the way to the right on this, under this alignment panel. Click on it, and then you see some more options. Here we have the alignment, the decoration, which has to do with underline and strike to, and then the case. Currently it is set to title case, meaning that all the first letters will be capital letter. If you don't want anyone, if you want to be the one to determine the case, you set it to this dash, meaning that you're taking out the case as typed. The next is uppercase, completely capital letters. Next, lowercase, completely small letters. And we've already met our title case. Then let's leave it at as typed, so that we are the ones to indicate which will be capital letters and which will be small letters. As for the rest, we are going to come back to them probably later on in the future if the need arises. But for now, this is how far we can go on the typography aspect. All right, so moving on, you can see that under the typography, we still have the same, aside from this typography section for text, you still have the same options, the fill, the stroke, and effects, and so on and so forth, that we still had under the shapes as well. So there is nothing new. The fill works in the same way. I clicked on it just now, and you can see that we have the solid color, gradient, image, and video as well, which we've covered. So without wasting any much time, we have to go over quickly to the topic of today. First off, creating an Instagram card. So let us put all the things that we've learned so far into practice. Let us create a friend suggestion card just like this. So I'm going to be doing this now, and I would like you guys to really follow closely. And always, if you have any question, any challenge, please do well to drop the comment for in the group chat or whatever platform you're streaming from, and I will see it as well. So before we move on, for you guys to be carried along, I think we're going to take a little break now to be accommodating questions. So I'm going to give us a 2-minute break. So anybody that has questions, you can feel free to drop it so that I will address it before we move on, so that you guys won't get lost. So if you have your questions, feel free to drop it and I will attend to you as at once. All right, welcome back from that brief break. I think I saw some questions there, and I think I'm going to be answering it before we move on. I think someone asked, how do we create gradient colors again? So, a quick recap for that person that asked that question. Let's go back to this our rectangle shape that we've created here. And for the field, so please pay attention. I'm answering the question on gradients. So once you select your rectangle, automatically your design panel gets active. You then come over to the field. This is where you should be. You scroll down to where you see field, and the field under it you should have a box that indicates the same color as the one that you have on your screen. So once you click on the color, you get this dialog box that comes up, and then you move over to the next option on top. Once you get this dialog box, you see the solid on top here. The next option is gradient. Yes, solid, then gradient. So once you get to the gradient, that is how you get to your gradient slider. Click on plus to add different colors. You click on the boxes to change the colors again. So I hope I have answered your question, whoever dropped that question. And now we can finally move on to the task for today. All right, so a quick reminder, our project for this bootcamp, we are going to be working on Instagram. Instagram is going to be our main focus. So in case you're wondering, so we are going to be building the welcome page of Instagram, the login and the sign up screen of Instagram, and the home screen. That is what we are all going to do by the end of this bootcamp. So each day is going to be step by step. We are breaking it down step by step. So today we're going to be starting working with the Instagram friend suggestion card, just like what you have here. I know it looks similar to the Instagram. And then we have an Instagram post. As you can see, this is just the way an Instagram post looks like. So we're going to be redesigning this in Figma today. Already, as you can see, this is not a picture. So this was done in Figma. So we'll be replicating this. So in the subsequent classes to come, we're going to design other aspects of Instagram, and then we'll be putting it back together piece by piece. So again, stay tuned, subscribe, and keep on following us down to the last day where we'll see our final project come together. All right, so let's get started. First off, we're going to be working on the friend suggestion card, just like this. As you can see, we have a circle with an image inside, we have some text, and we have a button. So in the course of this, I'm going to be showing you guys how to work with frames and how to create buttons as well, because this follow is a button. You can call it a call to action or a button, whichever way you're correct. First off, we are going to be creating from starting with what we know and moving on to what we don't know. So what do we know? We know how to create a shape with a picture inside. We know how to create text, and we know how to make the text smaller and make it less visible. So that's what we're going to do, and we're going to get started. So first, I'm going to start with the shape that we have here, which is a circle. So I'll go down to my tools bar, the family of tools, and select my ellipse. Remember, the shortcut is O on the keyboard. And then drawing a circle now, I'll hold down shift to make sure that the circle is of equal edges, just like so. Then I'll move over to my fill panel, which is on my right hand side, select the fill, and then this time around I'm going to select a picture. So I'm going to upload an image from my computer right now, and I will go over to my downloads. I think I have them here. I think I have them here, and I'm going to upload it from my system. Okay. All right. I think I see a question coming up. I'm going to put a pause now and answer that question real quick. Okay. All right. I think I've seen that question. So this picture is going to come from my download, but for the sake of time, we might not have access to the exact same pictures that we have here. So I'm going to show you guys the topic of plugins. Plugins where you can get pictures from as well. Yes, in case you don't have the particular picture, the perfect picture of your choice. Like in my case now, I don't have this picture that was used here. So I'm going to get a different picture this time around. So how do we work with plugins? All you have to do is right click, or you come down to this option here where you have actions. You right click, you click on the actions and see plugins and widgets. So under the plugins and widgets, you see that I have a list of plugins already saved on my Figma, but I'm going to give you guys a a heads up start to search for Unsplash. So in case you don't have this Unsplash here, you can just come to this type bar and search Unsplash, just like this. Unsplash, and yeah, you can find it under plugins. Come to the filter and then select plugins. I think, and there it comes. And there it comes. You click on it and it's going to load it up for you. So we're waiting for Unsplash to come on. Think it's loading. Anytime now it is going to come out, and we're going to have access to a host of pictures from the web for free. That's the best part of it. All right, so now our Unsplash has come out, and I'm just going to quickly move this dialog box out so that we can see our image. Yes, as you can see, we have thousands and thousands of pictures that has been uploaded by different people, different photographers for our use and benefit. So all we have to do is just search what we're looking for, and then we then bring it over to Figma. It's as easy as it sounds. So all we have to do, click on this search bar at the top right corner of the screen, and then type in whatever you're looking for. Let's say, I think this looks like a young black man. So let me say young black man, and I'll click on enter. Okay. So I have different options here. Which one looks nice? I think I'm gonna go with this one. So the choice of the picture is entirely up to you. I'm making it optional. You don't have to use exactly what I use, but just make a play around with it and choose anyone that best suits you. I think I like this one. So when you see the one that you like, all you have to do, first off, make sure that your shape that you want to impute the picture is selected. Once that is done, as it stands now, the shape is selected. You then click once on the picture, and you see that automatically the shape gets filled up with the picture. As easy as that. So we've gotten our first image to start with. So I'm quickly going to close this tab. I know we're going to need it again to create a smaller image, but no worries, we'll get there we'll cross the bridge when we get there. So the next step is to create this text. So I'm going to select my type tool, and I'll click once to create an artistic text box. JSON still. Oh, I just figured out something. My JSON is in little small letters, and I remember that was because I changed my case from title case to as typed. So once you do that, you're going to get this. The way you type it in is the way it's going to appear for you. So I'm just going to backspace that, and I'll turn on my caps lock to get me a capital letter, and I'll turn it off immediately as so. Do the same thing. Exactly. So once that is done, I'll move this guy up to this part, and it's looking a little bit too big. So I'm going to work with that. It's at 36. I'll bring it down all the way to 16. I think that looks good. Yep. 16 looks good enough for me. Do I make it bolder? No. I think medium is okay. Remember the theory of typography: hierarchy, heading, and subheading. So this JSON still is going to be my heading in this case, although there's not going to be any subheading, but the next will be definitely smaller than the JSON still, because they are not as important as JSON still. So I'm going to duplicate this typeface to save me the stress of drawing a new type of a text box by holding down Alt and dragging this guy downwards like this, and you see I've created a duplicate. So again, just to come over that, I held down the Alt key on my keyboard, or Option key for those that are using Mac, and drag it down just like this to create a duplicate. Okay, so I've gotten 3 there. Let me delete that guy and work with this. So the next text that comes in says, following Justice Samuel. All right, so let's type that down. Following Justice Samuel. All right, I'll move it to the center. Again, the theory of hierarchy. So I'm going to reduce this guy. What size did I use here? This is 16. Let's say I bring it down to 13. Looks nice. Then I'm going to change the color. Yeah, this is a faint gray. So I'll change the color of my fill. I'll drag this guy down like so. Exactly. Now you see that our friend suggestion card is coming to life. Then we need this small icon that has the person's image again. So I'll just duplicate this circle to say distress. Since we have a perfectly good circle here, duplicate the circle, hold down Alt and drag, and then I would scale it down again by holding Shift. Remember, hold Shift while scaling. Okay, then I'll bring it down over to this guy, following Justice Samuel. Good. Justice Samuel can't be following himself, so definitely I need to change the face. I'm going to go back to my plugins again. So there's a shortcut. If you don't want to go back to this your actions panel, all you have to do is just right click anywhere and you see plugins, you see save plugins, run last plugin, manage plugin, and your recent. So currently my recent is showing on Splash because I just used on Splash right now. So if you've used on Splash, you're going to be seeing on Splash here. So you just click on Unsplash and it's going to load it again. So while our Unsplash is loading, let me just take this time out to tell you we have lots of plugins on Figma. So we are not going to obviously work with all of them. Lots of plugins do different things and are so very helpful. But we're going to work with only two. The first one is on Splash. We'll see the second one in a bit. So on Splash has come on again. So I'll take it over to this side. Remember, let your shape be selected. And then I'll type young black male. The keyword is completely up to you, but I'm using this because this is a young black guy, right? Let me find the one that is fitting. I think this is fitting enough. This one. So I'm going to select it and there you have it. Automatically it gets filled up in my rectangle. As easy as that. So I'm going to close this guy. Yes, from here all the way down there is done and dusted. So now comes the next the first what we don't know, button. How do we create a button in Figma? It's very, very easy and quick. I'm going to show you guys just now. Right now, you first of all select your type tool and then type the label of the button. So currently it's going to be follow. So I'll hold shift and type follow. All right. Once that is done, and then I'm going to press Shift A on the keyboard to create an auto layout. So the topic of auto layout is very, very broad and vast. And again, for the sake of time, we might not or we will not be able to cover it completely and all its applications. But if you would like to know more about everything that we're learning, feel free to enroll for our UI UX design class and you're going to learn all the amazing things about Figma and UI UX designing. So that being said, we move on. So now we've created an auto layout. Just a quick explanation of what auto layouts are. It's an automatic frame that kind of shells your element. So you can create an auto layout for just one element or multiple elements at once. So what do I mean? Currently, I had only one text box that says follow, right? I created an auto layout for just it by pressing Shift and A on my keyboard. If you want to add an auto layout for multiple elements, let's say we have this circle and following Justice Samuel, all you have to do is just select the both of them and press Shift A as well. So that being said, we can also edit our auto layout because it works as a frame. So currently you see that it had some padding, but I'm going to first of all give it a color, a fill, because the auto layout has no fill, the frame has no fill. So I'm going to come over to our fill. You see there's no fill. I'll click on plus. There's the fill now. Don't worry, our text is hidden because the background is white. Click on the white. And then instead of struggling to get this blue color by myself, I can actually use the eyedropper tool, which is the tool beside the slider. As you can see here, this is the eyedropper tool. So I'm just going to click on it to select it, and then I will pick my color. There you have it. The shortcut to this eyedropper tool is I on your keyboard. So you just press the letter I on your keyboard, and then you get your eyedropper tool. As easy as that. Then next, I want to reduce the spacing. You see that the height of the frame is too high. It's higher than the way it's supposed to be. So I'm going to work on that now. Over in my properties panel, the design panel, like I said, it has the properties of every element on your page. You can see my auto layout option has come on. So this auto layout, you have your resizing, the width and the height. Then you have the direction. Currently is set to horizontal layout. Then you have the spacing, the padding between different elements. So this, the gap between different elements is not going to mean much because we have only one element. So had it been we added more multiple elements to this auto layout, then we would have had something to do with this. So I'm just going to skip that for now and come over to padding. So my padding, this is the horizontal padding, which is the horizontal space to the left and right, while this is the vertical padding. So I'm just going to reduce this vertical padding all the way down to 5. Press enter, and you see how it has briefed or shortened the height of my button. Then I'll increase the padding. I don't know a particular number to use, so I'm just going to drag or to see how that goes. So I've dragged this up until 60. So you see that it's increasing. It's increasing by itself by just dragging it. So now I'm going to position it and see if it fits. Okay, apparently it's not fitting yet. So that means I have to go again. Let's say I increase it up until 70 this time around. All right, I think that about does it. So we've gotten our button, but then one last thing we need to do to this button. You see that this one has some sort of rounded corner. Yes, that is what we call a corner radius. Now I said something about this yesterday, but for the sake of those that went around, I'm going to cover it and go through it again. So our corner radius, as you can see, is under the appearance. You have your corner radius. It gives rounded edges to your shapes. So what we can see, if we don't have a particular number in mind, again, as it is for every thing that has to do with digits, you can just click and drag to the right, and then your shape gets rounded just like that. You see that now from a straight rectangle, it now has rounded edges. But I think this one has a little bit of corner radius. So let me make a smaller number. Let's say instead of 25, I'll set it to 5. And there. Now we've gotten our corner radius, and it looks perfect and it looks good. So last thing that we have to do to complete our friend suggestion card, we have to create a final frame to contain these guys. So what do I have to do? First of all, I have to align them and make sure that they are all properly aligned. So I'm going to have to group these two together so that they don't get affected by the alignment. So once I've selected it, you see the alignment panel at the top part of your design. This is where you have the alignment. This is aligned to the left, aligned to the center horizontally, aligned to the right, aligned to the top, vertical center, and to the bottom. So I think we need to align it to the vertical center, and then we group it. So how do we group in Figma? You group by pressing Ctrl G once, and now it becomes one single element. So once that is done, you select all 4 elements by clicking and dragging, and then we want to align all of them together. So I'm going to select the 4 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4. So to do this, I want to now align all of them to make sure that they are all aligned horizontally at the center. So to do that, you see that that's the second alignment option that we have. Just click once and we are properly aligned. And now I make sure that my space is distributed the way it's meant to be. I think I'll move this guy up a little bit, and this one as well. I'm going to move it up, but I'm pressing my arrow key to nudge it in case you're wondering how I'm doing that. And then I'll group these guys. So I'm just grouping them for them to be as a unit. So for this thing I want to do for auto layout, it's best to always work with units. Again, for us to better understand auto layout, we might not have the time to cover it completely. So work with units, that's all we need to know. So you create units by grouping elements together. So I'll group these first two, group the next, and I think now we have three different units. So now I'll select all three together. Okay, for some reason it's selecting only my text. So let me just select that manually. I think I haven't grouped these guys. Control G. Control G. Okay. Now that's done. All three together. And then Shift A on my keyboard to add an auto layout. Then I'll auto layout a color, preferably this dark gray color. I is the shortcut. Remember, shortcut I on the keyboard for the eyedropper tool. So I've selected my color. Then I'll give it some padding, some space, some breathing space around. So I'm going to give the padding of let's say 10. How does 10 look? Wow, it's still not looking well. Now, there's something that we need to do first before we start padding our elements. In this frame, you go over to your auto layout and set your sizing to hub content. So all you have to do after selecting the auto layout, you go over to the resizing under the W and set it to hub content. So always make sure that your width and the height are set to hub content so that when you're padding, it is going to create space on each side, increasing the borders around it. So now we can try padding again and let's see what's going to happen. Horizontal padding, set it to 10, press enter, and we see that we've gotten some space. I think 10 is too small. Let's make it 20. All right, 20. I'll press enter, and then for the vertical padding, I'll set it to just 10. 10 works for me, and that is good. So one last thing that we're going to do to our card before we call it a wrap is to add some corner radius, which I'm just going to quickly do. Add it a corner radius of 5, and I'll hit enter on my keyboard, and there you have it. I know it doesn't look exactly like the one that we have here. It actually looks exactly, but it's not actually the same size because as you can see, the circle is bigger, the buttons are bigger, and the frame is a lot bigger. But now, with what we've learned and covered today, we've gotten all the information we need to create a friend suggestion card. Yeah, it was painful that we don't have much time to cover how to create an Instagram post, but believe me, we are going to cover that in our next class tomorrow. Yes, we've talked about a lot today. It was really fun, guys. We've talked about plugins, we've talked about colors, um, different we've talked about different text tools and typography to use in Figma. So now it is time for you guys to create your own friend suggestion card. Okay, so today was really fun. To recap, we've talked about how to add colors in Figma. We talked about how to work with different texts and different text sizes. We also talked about how to create buttons, how to import pictures, and how to work with plugins, especially on Splash. So your take-home assignment for today is going to be is going to be creating a friend suggestion card similar to this. So you can just go over to Instagram, screenshot what a friend suggestion card looks like, and then try and replicate it yourself. I'm also going to drop a link to this Figma project so that on the Telegram group chat, so that you guys can have access to it in case you want yours to look exactly like mine. So this is how far we can go for today. Again, I'm going to remind you guys, do well to subscribe and turn on your notifications so that you can keep on getting notified when we are having educational content like this, because we always have it from time to time. Subscribe, turn on your notifications, and follow us on all our social media handles at Loctech Training. So this is how far we can come for today. For tomorrow, we are going to go ahead to create other components and elements of our Instagram page as we are driving ever closer to the finish line. So I'd like to see you guys there tomorrow. Any question you have, feel free to drop it on the comment section, and I'm going to see and I will reply. So this is me signing out for today, and I'm going to see you guys same time tomorrow. Again, always remember to subscribe.